And this may or may not end up getting posted online. We'll see. I guess if you're watching it, then it did, so cool. Today we are talking about veils, and I'm talking with two of my apprentices in sort of an informal way, well, really tired and kind of sick, so bear with us. By veil, we are going to be discussing things that distort or occlude or in some way change what can be perceived. So that's the definition of what we're futzing with today. I find that it is helpful if you have an actual piece of fabric for this. So before we get too in-depth on the skeptics and spirituals corner and the science behind this and the actual technique, if you want to be assisted with a practical real-world object, you're going to need a piece of fabric. The fabric needs to be something that you can see through and that people can sort of see you through, but not entirely. So not opaque, just ever so slightly transparent or translucent, however you want to say that. Anyway, let's talk about the skeptic's corner and the spiritualist corner. In the skeptic's corner, you would not be doing this as an actual magical technique with energy running through it that had any kind of a real-world effect, beyond that you would be doing something that helped you psychologically to be perceived in a certain way because you have set yourself up psychologically to be perceived that way. So basically every step that we go through today, if you were in the skeptic's corner, you could use to assist you in feeling less vulnerable or less skewered by other people's attention, and to also occlude what they project at you. So you meet these people who are very charismatic, who are very magnetic, who are very attractive in a way that can sometimes feel like it's affecting you. Then in the skeptic's corner, this would be a way of putting sort of a layer mentally between you and them. And it would have an effect primarily because you mentally prepared yourself for it to do so. In the magical corner, this has an effect because you're literally putting energy into it doing so, and it does exactly what it says on the label. I don't care which corner you're in. I really don't. I really don't care if you're watching my videos out of curiosity because you want to see what the weird witches do. Doesn't bother me. Anyway, so let's talk about the physics and the science behind this. If you don't find that helpful, feel free to skip past this part of the video. The basic idea here is that you are futzing around with something that exists anyway, that there is a fabric to the universe itself, and that this fabric can be manipulated. So let's talk about the fabric of the universe. I find it helpful if you know that scientists are in the process of actually studying the background material that the world is constructed of, that gives it shape and that helps us perceive it as something that we can move around in. String theory, M theory, quantum mechanics, whatever you want to call it, some basic ideas out of that is that there is a background stuff out of which the universe is made, and that this stuff is constantly blinking in and out of existence, in and out of existence, creating itself, destroying itself, creating itself, destroying itself, and that this gives our world shape and allows us to experience time as a linear progression rather than what it really is, which is kind of everything happening at once in probability soup. It is helpful sometimes to be able to go like, nothing really exists. We're moving in probability soup. Everything is simultaneously being destroyed around me, so nothing is real. Sometimes that's helpful. It is not the technique that is going to be helpful for this. It would be the opposite end of that spectrum. But it is a spectrum. One of the tricks in cunning work is to be able to slide your mind along that spectrum, and sometimes being like, everything is simultaneously being created. It is coming into being. It has this form. This form is helpful to me. The illusion that reality is solid is helpful. The illusion that reality is a place that stretches forward and backwards in time and that I can move along this time stream can be helpful. Pick which one is helpful to you, or if somewhere in between is helpful to you. Another thing to be aware of with this fabric that we're going to be futzing with is it's what they're actually examining with the Higgs boson machine. The Super Hadron Collider, I believe is what it's called. And what they're doing is they're tearing small holes in the fabric of the universe, and they're seeing what pops up to repair it. Which, when I first read about it, I was sort of like, oh, well, that sounds like a brilliant idea. Let's rip micro holes in the fabric of reality. But they really are like really, really tiny holes. And it's something that's actually happening to the background of the universe all the time anyway. So I was a little less concerned when I did some more research into it. I am still concerned about the fact that they are investigating the zombie mind virus, the fungus that takes over bugs' brains. That's concerning. I feel like this is how we get zombies. But, you know, science is scary. Anyway, sorry. Where was I? Things to be aware of. There is a fabric to the universe that allows us to perceive it as we do, and that which is constantly self-replicating and self-repairing. It is my belief that each person, so back up, rewind, basic magic 101, that fabric is what separates us from the realm of spirit. It's what separates us from the Akashic realm, or the astral realm, or the dreamlands. It's what keeps everything separated. I personally believe it's also what separates us from alternate timelines and other dimensions, but that's just my opinion, and you can decide that I'm a crazy person, because half the time I think I am too. I'm okay with that. That veil is also what gives us a personal universe. I'm going to talk about this. In order to explore the idea of a personal universe, I really, really encourage two different sources be examined. One is the Princeton Pears Laboratory research into the affecting of random number generators if you believe hard enough that you have the ability to affect them. It was a really fascinating study. They made a lamp based on it, which is really cool, and I really want to own one. It's a lamp that you can change by believing that you can change the color of it. Yeah. And it lets you hone this ability. So that's a magic tool that I think that is really cool for practicing mind magic, is that there's a lamp that responds to your intention to change the color. I think that's awesome. Anyway, basically what they found is that if you tell someone that belief has the power to change the world, and then have them believe that they can make a random number generator screw its numbers higher or lower, and then tell them to make it go higher or lower, it works about an insignificant portion of the time. I'm not going to quote exact numbers because I don't have the study in front of me. So, they found that this was actually made more effective if they had multiple groups of people all trying to make it go up or go down, like people working in concert and togetherness to try and affect it. Which is what I would consider like the coven or circle effect, where you have multiple people believing that something can be made so, and so it is. The placebo effect is also, for the Skeptic's Corner, sort of an example of this, where people believe that a medicine is going to help them, and so it does. The other thing that I feel is helpful to research is Collective Unconscious Work by Carl Jung, which basically details how having an independent universe and how having a collective universe works together to influence how we interact with the outer and inner worlds. Basically, the idea is that everyone's running around in their own universe, and then we're all running around in a joint collective universe as well, and that these two intermingle. I believe that the same thing separates our personal universe from the collective universe as separates, say, the dreamlands from the astral realm, or us from the astral. I believe that our soul stuff has a boundary, and that as we're moving around, we have this physical body that's moving here, and we have a soul stuff body that is our actual self that is constantly moving in those other realms. It's moving in the realm of soul stuff. It's moving in the realm of spirit. That's really us. This is our meat suit that we run around in. When this meat suit ceases, that suit will continue running around because that's really us. And it has a border. Now, if you would like to research more into that border, you can look up Korean photography. I think I'm saying that right, and if I'm not, I'm sorry, and I'll put the actual name underneath the video, which is basically photographing of people's auras. The ones of psychic vampires is really fascinating. Or you can look up the studies into how far off the body brain waves extend, which actually varies from person to person between 3 centimeters and 3 feet. Now, I think that that variance actually has to be something you can do on purpose. For one thing, the lamps kind of back that up, that you can extend it or contract it. And the reason you can do this is because it's you. And just like you can extend or contract your arm, you can extend or contract that field. Here's where it gets complicated. Personal universes are infinite and finite at the same time. And this is what is helpful to me in my work. I decide that it's infinite when it helps me for it to be infinite, and I decide that it's finite when it helps me for it to be finite. That's what I do. But that border is there all the time anyway. At least in my system. If it's not helpful to you, do what works for you. In my system, I believe that that border that separates us between the collective unconscious and our unconscious is constantly doing the work of filtering some of the information that comes in. Just like your unconscious filters information. We have a bit of ourselves that is constantly going, that's not relevant, that's not relevant, that's not relevant. It's actually a danger if, okay, so say that you were a secret agent, and you were on the run from other secret agents, and you were living in a city temporarily while you were on the run. You would need to periodically pick all your shit up and move. Not just because the longer you stay somewhere, the bigger chance there is that they will catch you, but because when they are on your tail, you won't notice. And the reason you won't notice is because your brain just starts filling in shit. It is actually difficult for you to learn the same things every single day. So your brain just starts going, well, we don't need to look around when we're in our house in order to know where the walls are, in order to know where the couch is, and we'll just fill those details in. And it will tell you that you've glanced at things that you've not actually glanced at. And the reason why this would be dangerous, if say you were a secret agent on the run, which I hope none of you are, what are you doing watching YouTube? That's a terrible decision, is that if there was an assassin in your corner and you got home and you were so used to living there, you would walk right past them because your brain would not tell you to turn and look at the wall, and in fact it would tell you that you already had. That filtering of information is how the overabundance of stimulation in our world hasn't entirely driven us nuts. I do believe that it is somewhat driving us nuts, but it hasn't done it entirely. One of the things that a veil is that natural filtering that you already have, and that natural wall between you and the rest of the collective universe being told what it's supposed to do. That's it. You just have to tell it what it is supposed to do. Now, if you're in the skeptic's corner, this is just you reinforcing your mental boundaries before going out into a world that really likes disrespecting them. And that's all you're doing. If you're in the spiritualist corner, you are literally strengthening a bit of that universal fabric between you and the rest of the world and telling it what it is supposed to do. Now, you might ask, how? Universal fabric is programmable. It is. This has been established in the skeptic's corner and the spiritualist corner. The only difference between the skeptic's corner and the spiritualist corner is that we think people can do it and not just technological machines and marvels of scientific invention that are doing things like splitting apart the fabric and seeing if when they take one particle of it across the world, it still remembers what the other particle remembers. And the answer is yes, it does. And they still talk to each other, separated by a world, because the separation is really an illusion. But I digress. That's not important to this class. It is important to magic in general, but not to this one. In this one, what's important to know is that you can tell the universal matter around you what to do. And because it is your universal matter, it will listen. This is where we differ from the skeptic's corner. We think it gets personal. In my system of magic, we believe that you were created from the universe itself on purpose, and that it is experiencing itself as you. So you have universal universal bits, basically. That same fabric of the universe that they're ripping apart and seeing what comes repairs, but you have your own that you got from the universe itself at your inception. And you can tell it nicely what to do. In particular, what you're going to be doing in this technique is telling it to do this. And this is where this comes in handy. I have found that better than any technique I've ever used to tell my universe what to do is to tell myself what to do. I have tried all the techniques that involve calling down this power, calling down that power, lots of goo and candles and whispering in the night, and the most effective magic that has ever worked for me is to tell myself what I am going to do. And in so doing, it has helped me to have a visible construct of my intention, hence the fabric. It may not help you. You may find that for you, affirmations work best, so we'll go over this as affirmations. You may find that for you, visualization works best, so we'll go over this as in visualization. The Nike system is just do it, so, you know. But for all you people out there who want to learn my technique, I'm going to tell it to you. I literally perceive the fact that this fabric would also be aligned with the universal fabric. It can't exist without it. So this fabric has it in it anyway. And this fabric is currently mine. So I'm going to just go ahead and say, this fabric is mine. Fabric, you're mine. And your universal bits are mine. You are part of my universal bit, and you are going to represent my universal bit. Out there in the world are those that would want to influence my perception of them. They want to be able to beam to me that they are magnetic, attractive, more intelligent than they are, more competent than they are. Fabric, you're going to veil that. You're going to keep it on the other side of this veil. That's what you're going to do. Out there in the world, there are people who want to perceive my vulnerabilities. There are people who want to take advantage of my vulnerabilities. There are people who want to manipulate me. Many of them are the same people who are super charismatic that I asked you to shield me from already. Some of them are not. Some of them are really obvious. Either way, you are going to make it so that they do not see me clearly. They see only what I desire for them to see of me. Fabric around me, that is the job that I am giving you at this moment. When I wish you no longer to do it, I will tell you so. Just like that. Just like that. And it helps if you do it a couple times. And I would recommend that you do it until you feel what I call the click. Ian calls it a moment. Each of my students has had a different word for it, but there's a moment where you sort of go, huh, that felt like it did something. I don't know why it felt like it did something, but it felt like it did something. And it helps. Some people get hungry, some people get tired, some people get nauseated, some people get hot, some people get cold. But there's a difference in physical sensation that often comes along with this. I have one student whose hair raises on their body. But remember, when you do magic, to pull your power into what you're doing. Don't just sit there going, all right, this feels ridiculous, it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything, but okay, blah, 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 blah. It's not going to work. You have to start with going, I have power that is inside of me. It's in here somewhere, and I'm going to find it. And in every person, this feels different. In me, my power feels like the part of me that goes no. When someone says, "You're such a kind and generous person. I'm so honored to know you," a part of me goes, "No, I'm not. I'm not kind. I am spiteful, and I'm certainly not generous. I believe in protecting my own and making sure that I have enough, and I give what I can, but certainly not as much as I could." That little part of me that says no. Or when I see something that I perceive as unjust, and something in me goes, "Move. Stop this. Make it stop right now." Or when I'm really, 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 really tired, really exhausted, the part of me that goes, "Take one more step." And the place that answers that. Not just the voice that says, "Take another step," but the place where the answer comes from, the energy to take that one last step. So when you have those moments, pay attention to what it feels like, because that's what you're going to be reaching for in order to make magic happen. So when you reach for it and you go, sometimes I know when someone is looking at me and looking for my weak spots. I can feel it. Because believe it or not, most people can. They can feel when someone is disingenuous and seeking for a way in. We all have that coworker, that colleague, that friend who asks questions. For me, it's a relative. "So, how are things going with so-and-so?" And it's like, you're not asking because you hope we're doing well. And I can tell that. Or they go, "So how's the new job going?" And part of you is like, "You're such a bitch." That part of you that goes, I know they're seeking for a vulnerability. Remember that feeling where they're sort of like paging through the pages of your book, going, "Where's their vulnerability? Where's their vulnerability?" Or there's that one, and I'm going to say guy, but it's really not a cisgendered male thing, so maybe I just won't. There's that person who looks you up and down. And you can tell that they're looking for the right words to get what they want out of you sexually, right? They give you this, and it's like, "Ew, I'm wearing clothes. I'm wearing them on purpose. It's not an accident that I'm not naked. Stop trying to make me feel naked." Hi, Buzz.
Hello.
That part of you, that's what's going to know when something is trying to come through the veil. So you use that part of you to sort of go, "Hey, this is what I don't want getting through. I don't want those people who are able to look at me and see into me to be able to see into me." Now, eventually you can get good enough at these to start trying to change your physical appearance, make yourself more confident. But for now, we're starting with, I don't want people to perceive my vulnerabilities. So, as for the other way, the I don't want to be affected by their schmooze. You ever meet that person where you're like, "Wow, I'm really attracted to them. That's a really bad idea." It's like, "Ooh, I can feel that. I can feel that, like, be attracted to me, give me what I want, promote me, date me, think I'm better at my job than I am." And you can feel it. You really can. The worst example that I can give you is used car salesmen. But some people are better at it than that. Trump is terrible. He's really bad. He's just really bad. But there are people who are good at it. Okay? And we know these people because people will go like, "Well, I just want to be around him, even though he's kind of a jackass." That person. That feeling when they turn their attention onto you is what you're filtering out. You already know what it feels like. So when you're sitting there running your energy over the veil, it's like, I don't want that to be successful at getting through. That is what I don't want. Now that you've run it into a fabric, you're going to do the same technique that was used to teach me how to open and close the veil between worlds. You're going to hold it up. Hold it up so that a part of it is stretched like it's a wall. And understand that this wall is literally everywhere. It is behind your eyeballs. It is in the roof of your mouth. It is between your toes. It is across the room from you. It is on the moon. It is literally everywhere. And all you need to do is, one, remember you have it too. You have your universe bits. You have your bits that make up your personal universe. And they are going to be what you use to feel it. Understand that it's there. Understand you've got a piece of it. And understand that you can use your piece to feel it. And that's all you do. And now you're going to understand that that is all around you. And everywhere that it meets you, you're putting it up. Now, if it helps you visualizers to see it as a sphere, see it as a sphere. But understand that it's not a sphere. At least understand it as a sphere and not like a wall with like where people can come through the top and the bottom. I've seen that in books and that's a bad idea. Don't do that. But it's not a sphere. It is between your toes. It is behind your eyeballs. It is in the roof of your mouth. It is on the moon. And your separation from it is in every single one of those places too. Everywhere you go, whether you're projecting into the dreamlands, whether you're exploring an alternate timeline because you have an ability that I serious envy, I don't know. You have that separation everywhere, every when, every moment you exist from every bit of the extended universe. And this veil that you are building is already there in every place you are. And you're just telling it what to do. That's all you're doing. So if you're visualizing it, go ahead and envision yourself wrapped in a sphere of this and tell it what to do. If you're doing this as affirmations, rattle off what I just told you. There is a piece of me everywhere and every when, and there is a separation between me and the rest of the world, and the separation is going to do this and not this, this and not this, and you repeat it to yourself until it works. All right, and that's basically our class for this evening, and if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them to me. Until then, do you two have any questions you want on the video?
I don't think so.
Cool beans.